out of this computer. Welcome to the Uncensored Journey podcast, a raw, unfiltered guide to the truths that matter. We are diving deep, getting real about what it takes to truly transform inside and out. Ready for truth? Ready for transformation? You're in the right spot. I'm Cyndee, and with me as always is Gabriela. Let's get uncensored. Today we have a special guest. One of my favorite people in the whole entire world. Her name is Melissa Willow, and she is going to be talking to us today about healing through astrology and what that looks like. So, Melissa, I guess we can just jump right into it and tell us what that means. How do you heal through astrology? How does that work?
So, there are specific body parts that correlate with the signs of astrology. And so when the sun is in specific signs, there's more prominent energies that are happening during that time. And so the way that I've studied it is including biochemistry and cell salts, because this man that I was studying, George Carey, found that each sign correlated with a specific cell salt. And our bodies are built out of these 12 cell salts, or tissue salts, which are minerals basically that create our physical bodies. So by understanding what your birth chart is and what your chart looks like, you can kind of see where you might have weaknesses throughout your life, or certain symptoms that come up throughout your life, based on what your astrology chart looks like, if that makes sense.
Yep. Gabriela, I think you had a question.
I did. That's fascinating. This is the first time I hear of that approach to astrology. That's so freaking cool. I can't wait to hear more about it. So that makes perfect sense, and it falls right into my question, which is which astrology school of thought are you of? Are you of tropical or sidereal? And with that, what are the similarities between the two, and how do you reconcile the differences within your approach to astrology?
So I think that it's good to understand like how, you're guided to certain areas, more so than others. But then it kind of like other parts intertwine. So I've studied more tropical because it just has been easier for me to understand like how to read the charts and the way that it's like charted out. I've looked into sidereal. Sidereal is where things are in the sky real time, whereas tropical is more based on the what do they call it? I'm spacing the word.
Is it the wheel or
not the wheel, but the tilt on the earth, basically like where the sun is rising. So the chart is off about 23 degrees. And I'll try to remember that. I don't know why I'm spacing the name, but so it's just been easier to read the wheel versus the sidereal. It's a square with like X's, so it's harder for me to go back and forth. But it is off a little bit. So where someone might be a sun sign of a Taurus, tropical, in sidereal, it's Aries. So it's back 23 degrees. Is that
Yeah, it does answer my question. And so I guess the follow-up to that is how like when you're having transits and like the Saturn return and all of those big events and like the south and north nodes, like when you have the two different schools of thought and one is like in real time versus a
2000
little
ago.
behind, like how does that work and what should you listen to?
I think, like I said in the beginning, it comes down to what is resonating with you, what you feel like is more energetically what's happening. And that's the tricky part, with astrology, is it's not all like, personally, I feel like you create your own reality. So it's as much as you feed into it or believe in it, you know what I mean? Just like anything else, it can be more psychosomatic kind of a thing, but that's where it kind of gets tricky, especially when you're diagnosing or are trying to figure out how it's going to play out in different people's bodies, because it is, your health. And so there can be a little bit of a bleed over in that aspect.
Okay. But I mean, I'm thinking of, like if you have a certain transit in your chart and I mean like, we're all electromagnetic fields, right? We're all energy. And so like if you don't necessarily have the quote unquote correct information, I mean, ultimately that's science. Like the astrology to a degree it's scientific to a big aspect of it. So if you say like, hey, like I have a transit in this planet, but in actuality you're experiencing this other planet, like those are huge, like different energies. So like, yeah, that's more of like where I'm curious and I'm a little confused. I'm not by any means like an expert. I'm just starting to learn about it, and there's a lot of questions, more questions than answers.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I mean, they're close to each other, right? So if it's an Aries, say something is an Aries, like Mars. So Mars rules over the blood. If that's an Aries, Aries is like rules over the head, right? But if it's tropical Taurus, then it's in the throat. So you're getting close to each other, right? So there's some purification going on in your head. You might have symptoms of headaches, but then you might also have symptoms of jaw pain, that refers down to your lower jaw, whereas Aries like rules over your upper jaw. So it can be very close. It's not like it's going to be so far away where it's like you're on two opposite sides of the body. And that's what I mean by it could bleed into each other. On the other hand, because the way that I study it, there's the opposite sign. So you can have something referred to the complete opposite side of the zodiac sign. Whereas like if you're in Taurus, then it would be Scorpio because that's the opposing side, right? So then now you're in the sexual organs. And so that's where, that's why it's like a mathematic equation that, the astrologer has to figure out what's going on in your chart, your birth chart, and how it's affecting the sky right now, like what transits you're going through now. It's very like specific, like you said, some people are in like a Saturn return, and so they're experiencing a lot of Saturn in their Libra house, or and then it also, you have your birth chart to take into consideration. So that's why I've stuck with the tropical while I'm studying this, because that's what George Carey used. So it's like, it's easier for me to understand in that sense, but you end up kind of like learning a little bit about both. And it is important to take into consideration where things are in the sky.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Now, Cyndee, you had a few questions yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna dive into like past traumas and challenges. So I'm just curious to know if there's a way to use astrology to better understand our past traumas and challenges and how we begin that healing process.
Like, are you talking about like specific planets or asteroids that might exhibit trauma?
Yeah, like in your life, like, well,
Mhm.
for like me specifically, like, um is there like astrological explanations as to why traumas or challenges has happened in my past, even past lives, and then how to heal that?
Mhm. So usually you would look at the house that it's in. Like Pluto, for example, can be a deep wound that you are working through in this life. That's a generational planet where basically it's very slow moving. So so there's generations that like have Pluto in Libra, and there's generations that have Pluto in Scorpio. And so that planet is to help us to it's a planet of death and rebirth and regeneration. So it does go into the depths, like the dark scary places within our souls. um and it breaks and it comes out differently in different people's experience, right? Because we're all fragments of the source, and we're healing and transmuting these issues. Another one would be Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. He's the one that, basically he heals other people, but he can't heal himself. So looking at where these are in your chart, depending on the house, can display like where you might have experienced trauma in your body or in your soul, where you're trying to basically work through it in this life.
Interesting.
And how to
Uh,
work through that trauma is just by recognizing what it is and understanding that we live in a dualistic system. So sometimes it's really scary and dark, and we just have to allow for that to come up, no matter how uncomfortable it is, for it to be seen and to be healed and to be let go of.
Awesome. Well, not awesome. Past traumas are not fun. But I was just curious, like they're like Mercury in retrograde is bad and like all the bad stuff happens in Mercury retro. I'm being dramatic here, but like that's the perception, right? And so just curious to know if there's good retrogrades or good astrological that's supposed to just like keep bringing all of the goodness into your life. Like the opposite of the Mercury retrograde, I don't know, hysteria.
I think it's all good. I mean, it's all for our highest good. In our birth charts, it will show whether you have a retrograde planet. And so sometimes that is your lesson, and you actually do better during retrogrades because it's like part of your being, right? Like you're used to the retrograde. So I'm ruled by Mercury. And so every time Mercury goes retrograde, it's like it's on, like I'm used to. It's like they give it all the R's, like you're reevaluating things, you're reevaluating how you communicate, because Mercury is communication. And so for some people, they don't like to have to review things, they don't like to have to go over things again. So it really all comes down to how you respond to the retrograde. And all planets go retrograde minus the sun and the moon. So at some point we have to go over our Mars retrograde, which is our action, our ego, like our drive, and what like gives us what is like our passion, you know, and then by, you know, all the other planets that we have to experience the retrograde. But it is important to go back inward. It's going in and seeing like what you value, what it is that you are trying to accomplish here, you know, in this lifetime.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned healing salts, and I was curious if you can elaborate more on that and tell us like what's the difference between like table salt and Epsom salts and like and the cell salts that you're talking about, and then maybe talk a little bit about how to use those in healing with your um astrological stuff as well.
So the tissue, they call them tissue salts or cell salts, and they are 12 basic minerals that our bodies and the earth is made out of. So they're in our foods, and the way that you can take them, it's like a homeopathic remedy where it's the mineral is tertiated, which means that it's broken down to a very small cellular size. And instead of it being, you know, like when you eat food, it has to be broken down into a smaller size in order for it to be assimilated into your body. These tissues, these cell salts, you can take just under your tongue. And like I said, they're a homeopathic remedy. So they're made into like little tiny pellets that dissolve under your tongue. And so that's how you can take them versus like the bath salt, like, you know, magnesium is just magnesium, and it's a bigger like granule or whatever. And so and same thing with like sea salt or Celtic salt, those have those same minerals in them. So, and they have like 86 different minerals in the sea salt. So you can get it that way also, because pretty much, you know, everything has, I mean, we're surrounded by like 76% water, the earth is, and same with our bodies. So you can get it through sea salt as well, and through your food and through the atmosphere. And that's what this man talks about, George Carey, is that through each, like when the sun is in say in Leo, it's transmitting magnesium. So the opposite side, this is how I always try to explain it. Aquarius, which is sodium chloride. So during the summertime, we have to drink more water because we're getting more magnesium through the atmosphere, and then we're dehydrating. So that's why it's important to rehydrate with the sodium chloride, because it's pulling from that cell salt, if that makes sense, in your body.
That's fascinating. I love that. So I was curious if you could like briefly tell us about which organs are associated with each planet, and and then like one or two things of like the best practices in your opinion, or that you feel like you could share. Yeah.
Okay. So this is where I'm gonna have to have my notes. So we'll start with Aries, because it's the first sign of the zodiac, and that's your head. So Aries is the cell salt of potassium phosphate, which is for the nerve fluids in the brain centers. And like I said, it rolls over the head, the spinal cord, the lower jaw. Taurus is sodium sulfate, which helps pull water out of the tissues of the organs. And it rolls over the neck and lower jaw and your gallbladder and liver. See, even in here, like even in the tropical, like it still bleeds down to other parts of the body that aren't directly around that area. Gemini is potassium chloride, which is they call it like the weaver, because it's like the white fibrin in the body, which is rules over the lungs, the pleura glands, the bronchial tubes, and the fibers of the tissue. And it also rules over the shoulders and the hands, because it's the Gemini is the twins. Cancer, it rules over the breasts, the stomach, and the spleen, and the elastic tissue, which is the cell salt of calcium fluoride. Leo obviously rules over the heart. It's magnesium phosphate. The heart, the motor nerves, the back side of the heart, so the mid upper back. Then Virgo is the bowels, the solar plexus, and the oil, so the sebaceous glands. It's sulfate of potassium. Libra is the sodium phosphate, and it is the balancer. Basically, like it balances the acidity in our body and our blood. And it rules over the bladder, the kidneys, and it's an acid neutralizer. Do you want me to kind of break anything down? It's a lot of information.
Yeah, no, but it's so cool. Like
it's like a math problem, kind of like it's really, you have to understand like the physiology of our bodies, and then understanding astrology, and then putting them together.
It's fascinating. Like yeah, it's like I definitely want to have a separate conversation with you. It's so neat.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like trying to explain it to just anybody. It's like it can get kind of boring, and like for some people, you know, that aren't into the body, you know, but trying to figure out how to break it down into a more understandable process. Because all of these tissues work together to make our bodies, right? And any time that we're out of balance, then it causes the symptoms to show up. And so basically what you would do say like you were talking about the south node can be draining. So say the south node is in Libra, it's draining you of your calcium phosphate, sodium phosphate, sorry. So your body's going to become more acidic. So what you would do is you would replace that in your body, because you know that that's what's happening during this time. And so by understanding what's going on outside, you can understand what your body is going to need during that time. If that makes sense.
Amazing. Yeah, it makes complete sense. And that's so powerful. That's really cool. I'm so glad you're here.
Yay. That's how I felt, you know, learning it. It's like the way that, and when I told you it was spirit guided, you know, it's like throughout your life, you get certain little tidbits of information of something that you are supposed to do. And it doesn't seem to be much of anything when you first get it. Like, you know, with the cell salts, I was working on a farm, and they had the psychic convention, and these people were taking cell salts, because after they would do these workshops together, you know, the man described to me how your body was basically depleted of these salts, right? And so fast forward 10 years, I come across this book on cell salts and, you know, how they're important for your body. And I was just like, whoa, that's crazy. Like 10 years ago, you know, this guy, and it didn't mean anything to me at the time, you know, but I knew like it was a little piece that was added to my bag that I remembered. And then later on was shown to me. And I say spirit because that's who guides you, you know, God, spirit. And you get to kind of build this person that you are and what you're supposed to bring to the world.
Seeds being planted.
Seeds being
Sprouting.
planted. Yeah. Amen to that.
Gabriela, any
So
more questions? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, like, what is your sign, Gabrielle?
Tropical Gemini, sidereal Taurus.
Oh, awesome. I'm a Gemini rising.
Okay.
Obviously sidereal Taurus, but yeah.
That's fun.
That's awesome.
You're not going to ask me?
I know what you are. You're fire all day.
Yes.
Fire all over the place.
Yes, ma'am.
Aries rising, Leo sun, and Sagittarius moon.
That's right.
I didn't even have to look that up.
Melissa may or may not have done my chart a few times. Awesome. Any last questions or comments? Is there anything you're dying to share with us, or Gabriella, any more questions?
I have tons of questions, and I could be talking about this for the next 3 hours because
Nice.
so cool. But if I had one question, thinking. How can you best work with the type of the astrology that you do to lessen? I mean, I think I'm going to answer my own question to a degree, but so to lessen the effects of a Saturn return, for example, like, yes, like make sure that the minerals that are associated with your sun sign, right? Is it just the sun sign minerals that you want to watch out for? Or like, how do you do that for your body throughout like a Saturn return? Because those are like one of the most impactful, right?
Are you going
Returns.
through a Saturn return? Is that why you're asking?
No, I'm just curious.
Okay.
I'm not. No. Oh my God. Thank God. Like that's been over. Like for now. Like.
So the way that this man was understanding it was he believed that you were weaker because when you're in your mother's womb, you're being basically created in your mother's womb, right? So he believed that after you were born, because we're only in the womb 9 months, you're missing or you're lacking the 3 cell salts from after, 3 months after you were born. So the cell salts from when you were, from the month that you were born, and then the 2 months afterwards. So symptoms arise in that case. And this is kind of where I was starting to be guided in that sense, where it's so much more than just that, that you're lacking. I feel like when you do have certain things going on in your chart in certain times, that's another aspect that can be seen and healed through taking that extra cell salt to help your body basically rebuild and make sure that you're not lacking in that cell salt, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So yeah, like I said, the south node can drain you. The Neptune is also another one that can be draining wherever that is. So right now, Neptune has been in Pisces, and Pisces is ferrum phosphate, which is iron. So it's a good idea for everyone, because everyone is experiencing Neptune in Pisces, to take in extra ferrum phosphate. And that is what oxygenates the blood. Some people might have a hard time breathing. And, you know, I think a lot of this really came to me when we were going through 2020, and there were a lot of people experiencing different symptoms from COVID. And that's what made me question, like, why is everybody experiencing it so differently? You know, and I was guided to see that it's not like the illness was more of a purification of our bodies, because our earth is ascending. And so since we are on an energetic level with the earth, we're connected to the earth, we have to also ascend. And we cannot ascend if our bodies are ill and have dis-ease. So in order to get to that point, we have to get rid of the toxins. And the only way to do that is by getting sick, you know, like, and then symptoms would come up for people where they didn't even know that they had specific things, and it brought things to light. And so that's what really like drove me through this, you know, and being guided to learning this, because it was like, wow, everyone is so different, you know, and everybody carries different things in their body and has different processes. And it's interesting to see kind of how it plays out in different people's bodies.
Is there anything that, like any planetary movements right now that are happening or coming up that you want to share, like we should be doing, like you shared with the iron? Like, is there anything that we should be aware of, like with the new astrological new year and all of that?
I mean, there's so many things that are going on right now. I took a break. I'm just, you know, like I told you, I took a break for a little bit. I did a fast and prayer. And so that also included fasting from astrology, just because I was more trying to learn how to get the information from within versus without, you know, and astrology is out, but it's in also, like it's within us, like our bodies. But we are, I mean, Uranus is going to be conjunct Jupiter in Taurus pretty soon. So that's like going to be huge. Obviously, anything that like comes into contact with Jupiter is intense. And Uranus rules over our electrical systems, like in our bodies, our electrical systems, you know. So it's important to make sure, like I always take in Celtic salt. I'm always making sure that I have plenty of electrolytes in my body, because we're batteries, you know, so we want to be fully charged. That's one that I'm looking at. And Saturn, of course, going through Pisces, it's definitely like ridding us of systems that no longer serve, which is why we see like our governments kind of breaking down, and people are seeing like it's not working. And now Pluto's in Aquarius, so it's like, you know, Aquarius is about the people, you know, and liberating us from, you know, being confined. Like Pluto was in Capricorn, which is the powers that be, you know, and now it's all about the people and learning to take our power back. But as far as health, it's specifically like your chart, you know, like what might be affecting your chart.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much.
It was nice meeting you. I hope, I mean, it's a lot of information. Like I said, it's so hard to just break down into like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I think you did a great job.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And I think that when the right time is for you, I see workshops in your future.
Nice.
Where you get to educate people on the power of it.
Yeah, I definitely need to get back into to working on it for sure, and working with people, because, you know, it's like I have a son, and I work, all the time. I do massage and body work and sound baths, so I'm trying to help people in that way.
And you do a wonderful job. So
Thanks.
like, yay. I thank you so much for being here. We'll have to have you back at another time to maybe talk about sound baths and like, sound healing.
Yeah.
So exciting. I guess this concludes our episode with Melissa. Thank you so much again for coming and sharing all of your knowledge with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check us out on YouTube. And also, we'd love to hear from you. So comment below, leave us a review, do what you need to do. And until next week, enjoy your journey. Thanks for
Bye.
joining us.
Thank
Bye.
you.